Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to the next video in my deck collection series. Today we'll be taking a look at the decks in my collection that have an otherworldly energy to them. So these are the decks that feature creatures or landscapes or worlds that are apart from our own contemporary world. Most of these decks do indeed have a very earthy energy to them and could have just as easily been featured in that collection, but if I would have put them all together, it would have been a little overwhelming for us both. So while a lot of these have a very earthy energy to them, they are a bit different because they focus more on the fantastical. There are a total of 10 decks featured in this video, and you will find a complete list in the description below. So let's venture into the magical realm of my otherworldly tarot decks. So to start things off, we have the Tarot of the She. Now this is a deck that I've talked about quite a bit in on my channel because I used this deck a ton in January. It was my study deck for January. Has the beautiful labyrinth symbol on the back. Now this deck also could have easily gone in my earthy collection because it does have a very earthy energy, but I feel like it also has a very otherworldly feel to it as well. It's like this deck to me represents as above, so below. So I included it in my otherworldly category, and this deck is just, I love this deck. This deck is amazing. It is so profound. It is so deep. It's very raw and very primal, and I do have a review of this deck coming soon. The artwork is, it's interesting because it was done like inked and in the moment, and there was no planning, there was no sketching or anything. It is just raw images, and I think that's one of the things that I actually really like about this deck. I do like hand-drawn decks, like deck artwork that looks hand-drawn, and this one is very much it's very raw and it's very primal, and I really love that. It's one of my favorite moon cards. Love this moon card. It's fabulous. It's a fabulous reader. The titles and the keywords do go really well with the cards, but I don't think that you necessarily need them. And I am still planning on, chopping this deck down a little bit because it is pretty big and bulky. But as far as being a reading deck, it's just, it's so gorgeous. Hey, look at that, how gorgeous. Okay, so yes, definitely one of my favorite tarot decks, and one that I have done a lot of work with. So that is Tarot of the She. So up next we have another deck that I have used quite a bit, and this is the John Bower Tarot. I'm really not a fan of these backs, and like you can see, like I have used the heck out of this deck. It has got a serious bow in it. And I am thinking about rebacking it to kind of help straighten that bow out, and because I'm not a huge fan of the backs. And also, I think I'm going to trim it and cut the titles off. Now, this deck, while they really try kind of to adhere to a traditional system, I think this deck really reads better more intuitively. When I read with this deck, I do not pay one bit of attention to the title, the number, or the suit association. That doesn't even factor into my readings. I read with this deck solely based on the imagery alone, and it really has worked beautifully for that. So I use this as a strictly intuitive deck, hands down all the way. Now this also has a very earthy feel to it. Look at that fool, he's so cute. It definitely has a very earthy feel to it, but we do get a lot of trolls and giants and otherworldly type beings in this deck, and in this artwork. But it's just a gorgeous deck. It is a gorgeous intuitive reading deck. It's definitely one of my favorites. I love the artwork. It's just so beautiful. It's so storybook. So just a fantastic deck. So that is the John Bower Tarot. So up next we have Tarot of the Hidden Realms, and this is, or Tarot of the Hidden Realm. I always add the S to it, I don't know why. This one is still living in its big old box, which is kind of big, so I'm gonna move it out of the way. Here's the beautiful backs. This is a deck that I've had for several months now, and it's absolutely gorgeous, but I have not worked with it yet. I have looked through the images many times. But I've not actually done any readings with this deck yet because I'm waiting. I'm waiting to do one of my deep dive works with this deck. So it's kind of just been hanging out on my shelf waiting for me to have the time to really dig into it. I hear the guidebook is phenomenal, so I'm really excited to read that. These images are just stunning. I absolutely love this artwork. It's so beautiful. And I have been really, really tempted to do readings with this deck, but I really want to read the guidebook first, and I really want to do my work through my whole deep dive process before I jump into just throwing down cards and reading with it. Although I think you probably certainly can with this. Beautiful Five of Cups. I think it would work really well for that. That's just not how I would like to work with it to start with. So I love that it's borderless. It's just like, okay, that's the one card in the deck I don't like. I don't like that Magician. But that is the only card in the deck I don't like. And I am not the first person to say that. Look at Temperance. She's so beautiful. So yeah, anyway, just a gorgeous deck. I'm super excited to, dig deep into that one. So that is the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. So next we have the Tarot of the Secret Forest. And this is such a cool little deck. I have a review that's coming very soon about this deck. But this deck, this is the backs. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but just in case you haven't, the backs are all a black and white version of the fronts. So that means this deck can be read either way. And I love to mix them together, and I read the black and white versions as kind of a more primal or more instinctual manifestation of the energy of the front side of the card. And that's just how I read it. I mean, everybody can read it differently. The artwork is really, really beautiful. This is one of those decks that I wish that it was bigger just so you could see that artwork. This is another deck that I read almost completely intuitively, and I don't pay any attention to the numbers or the suits or the names. I just read it from an intuitive standpoint, however it comes up, and that's just how I work with this deck. I have edged it in black, but so you can flip it around the other way and just go the other way with it. But I think I am going to trim it because I do read with it intuitively, and I'm not a huge fan of these big, bulky symbols on the cards. I mean, it's better than their multiple titles because this is a Los Scarabeo deck, but like, look how beautiful that is. But since I read with this deck solely intuitively, I just really I don't need them on there, so I think I'm just going to take them off. But I love working with this deck because I love the fact that it has the color images and then the black and white images on the back. And I just think that's really unique. I do not have another tarot deck that does that. So this one is just a really unique part of my collection, and I have done a tremendous amount of work with it, and I really enjoy using it. And like I said, I have a full review coming very, very soon. So you can see, that's pretty cool. So that is the Tarot of the Secret Forest. Next we have the Fairy Tarot, and this is the mini version, and I will be perfectly honest, and I bought this deck strictly to put it on my shelf. Like, I don't read with it. I have a little shelf that I have like a bunch of miniature little things, miniature toadstools, little miniature gnomes, and this deck lives there with it. Just because it's cute and it's tarot, and it's just, yeah. I have thought about getting the full-size version because it is really cute, but I don't know. I don't know how many fairy decks do I really need. The minors are very much Pippish, but they do have a scene going on below, really similar to like the Old English Tarot does a really similar thing. So you have more hearts and bells, so the suits have been renamed. So you have the bells, then we have acorns, and then we have leaves. So it's just like, I don't know, it's totally not a practical deck probably. I mean, you could read with it for sure. It's just a mini deck, but for me, it sits on my shelf with all my other little mini gnomes and toadstools and whatnot. So it's simply for display purposes, but it is a tarot deck and it is in my collection, so I thought I would include it here. Maybe someday I'll get the full-size version and actually do some readings with it. So that is the Fairy Tarot Mini. So up next we have the Crystal Visions Tarot, and this is a deck, beautiful backs, that I have modified, and I have severely modified this deck. This was the first deck that I ever modified, so I did cut the borders off, but then I actually went and I repainted all of the cards, and I don't know if that I can get it to show up in the light. But I actually repainted all 78 cards, which was really, it was a very time consuming, but a very fun process. It's a beautiful little deck. Honestly, I haven't done any readings with it since I have modified it. But I did do a ton of readings with it when I first got it. And it's a beautiful little reader. It's kind of got the very soft fantasy type feel to it. It has, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just a cute little deck. And it reads, you know, really well. It reads really easily. And I really love the nature-based vibe to this deck. And again, it could have been in my earthy collection, but it doesn't, it definitely has, you know, otherworldly things like dragons and fairies and, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a beautiful little deck. It's a quick and easy reader. It is trimmed, so now it's borderless, but it comes with a border, and the borders are colored according to the suits. So you can kind of see at the bottom. So, So that is the Crystal Visions Tarot. Up next, we have my little Tarot of a Magical Forest, and I have, of course, modified this. There's the backs. How perfect was this bag? I was really excited when I found that fabric. Oh, that's just perfect. I have edged it in green. I've shown this deck on my channel a couple of different times. It's just, I mean, everybody's seen this. It looks so much better trimmed. It's just a really cute deck. And, and it's just a fun little reader. I mean, it's very Rider-Waite-Smith, so you can just pretty much pick it up and read right out of the box, which is fabulous. It's a great little reader. It's just fun. It's just one of those decks that makes you kind of happy when you see it. Even like these cards, like, oh, aren't they so cute? I mean, I feel bad for them, but they're so cute. Anyway, yeah. I really don't need to go into a ton of detail about this because everybody has seen this deck, so. It looks so much better borderless, though. I cut the titles all off, of course, you know, top and bottom and the sides, so. It looks so much better now. So that is Tarot of a Magical Forest. Hey, up next we have the Tarot of a Moon Garden. Now this is a deck that I was super excited to get because I really love the artwork, but I am not a fan of these borders. Like, I have thought many times about trimming it, about how I could trim it, and I mean, I've seen some trimmed versions of it, and it's one of those decks that's super difficult to trim. I think the images are really cute. The problem, besides the big borders and the copyright, the biggest problem I have with this deck is that, some of the images are kind of blurry. Like they weren't scanned in at a high enough resolution, maybe. I don't really know because I don't really know anything about this deck. I just think the images are so cute and they're so sweet. Like even death is sweet. Like it's just a cute, sweet little deck, but it's such a shame that there's like all of this going on around it. This would look so much better if it was the full size of the card and borderless. And scanned in at the right resolution would be really nice so that it's not blurry. Having said all of that, it kind of keeps me from actually using this deck because, I don't know, I just kind of, it's like every time I pull it out, I'm like, oh, it's so cute, but like really, the borders and the fuzzy pictures, and it's such a shame. Like his mustache, like what is up with that mustache? It's just so funny to me. But anyway, it's just, you know, it's one of those decks that it's not to say that I wanted to love it but didn't. I do love it. It's just, I seem to have a hard time actually doing readings with it because of those issues that kind of just get in my way. But I do like to look through it. I have done readings with it. It's just not one that I find myself reaching for very often. So anyway, such a cute little deck. I don't know if I showed the backs. Anyway, it's a cute little deck. It's just got some production issues, but you know. So that is the Tarot of a Moon Garden. So here we have the Fairy Tale Tarot, and beautiful key back on this deck. This is actually the Spanish version because the English version is out of print and stupid expensive, and I won't pay that much money for it. I also have the app on my phone, so I have all of the cards and the full book in English if I just use the app, so it totally works for me. This deck is like, it's so sweet. It's so heart-centered. It definitely takes you back to, you know, to a time of magic and wonder and innocence, and, you know, and also, you know, a little bit of some scary times too, right? Childhood isn't all lollipops and, you know, summer days. So anyway, it's just a gorgeous deck. I love it. I do love reading with it. I tend to read with this deck just more intuitively, only because it's, you know, I have to actually get my phone and use the app to read the interpretations, but I have read all of the little stories, and that is just fabulous. I really enjoyed reading the stories, and occasionally I will pull a card and just read the story, and that's, you know, that's the message, is the story. But a lot of times when I read with this deck, I just read with it sort of intuitively, let the artwork tell me its own story. So that is the Fairy Tale Tarot, and this is the Spanish edition. So up next we have the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, and it again is like the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. It's still living in its big box, which is beautiful, but it's kind of big, so I'm going to move it out of the way. And I haven't created a bag for it yet because, like the Tarot of the Magical Forest, or not Tarot of the Magical Forest, Tarot of the Hidden Realms, I've just got a mismatch of tarot names in my brain. This is a deck that I'm waiting to work on. It's got a beautiful backs. This deck has its own system, and I think for that particular purpose that it's going to be super beneficial to really take time and do deep dive work and get to know this system. So I have not just jumped in and done readings with it. It's set aside to work on here in the next, you know, probably couple months. I love the artwork. The artwork is beautiful, and I'm really curious to see how this system works. I've heard some people say it's like the best thing ever. It's a fantastic system, and some people have not, you know, resonated with it at all. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to work out for me. So I really can't say anything about how this deck reads. It is beautiful. It does have kind of shiny cardstock, which I'm not terribly fond of, but that's okay. We can work with it. It's a little bit big, but I am excited to work with it because it is a new system, and that's always exciting to me. That's how I think our tarot knowledge grows, or our card reading knowledge grows. Look, those ones are still even stuck together. How did that happen? Anyway, okay, we'll deal with that later. So I'm very excited to begin work with this, but I just want to make sure, beautiful, that I have the time to dedicate to this deck that I think it really needs, and probably kind of requires of you. So there you have it. So that is the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. And the last deck, because I keep bumping my table, I've just come to realize that I don't have any real tarot decks that I put, I don't have any oracle decks that I put into this category, and I have a couple that probably could have gone into this category, but I ended up putting in other categories for whatever reason. Anyway, this is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot by Baba Studios. This is like, oh, such a great deck to shuffle. I have spoke about this deck on my channel before. This deck and I are having a bit of a hard time, you know, becoming friends. I'm not going to go into it in super big detail because I did that in my 31 Days of Tarot videos. I have some problems with the artwork, and it's not the context or the content, I mean, of the artwork. It is the way the artwork is actually put together. So it's totally a technical thing that I just either need to get on board with and see it as part of the deck's charm, or need to pass along because it's not a deck that I ever feel compelled to reach for. And I really didn't have intentions of buying this deck. I went after the Victorian Romantic. That was the Baba Studio deck that I really wanted. And since I was going ahead and paying for shipping, I just thought, well, I better go ahead and get this one. Like, he totally looks like Johnny Depp. Not Johnny Depp. Iron Man. What the hell's Iron Man? Sorry, my brain is... Anyway. Okay. Back on track. This is the one card in the deck. Like, I have total squirrel brain today. This is the one card in the deck that I do absolutely love. I think this is the most gorgeous card. Sadly to say, it is the only card in the deck that I have been able to say that about. So, but, I mean, it's funny. It's a funny little deck. It's got like this cheeky little sense of humor, and I can totally see that about it, and a lot of people have said that, but I get too caught up in the technical details, and I just need to get over it. Probably, that's the thing. I just need to get over it. Just need to check my shit at the door and let the deck be what it is. Yeah, okay. Anyway, enough about that. So that is the Bohemian Gothic Tarot. Thank you so much for checking out my collection of otherworldly decks. I would love to hear about the fantastical decks in your collection or your thoughts on the ones I've shown here, so feel free to leave a comment below. And if you'd like to check out the rest of my deck collection, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click that little bell for notifications. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.